Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Workshop. Got a lot to talk about today, and we've got quite a few good questions already on the board here that we're going to cover. I thought I'd start off by telling you the status of the fiber optic review, I guess you'd call it, yesterday when the guys came out to look over the situation and decide how they were going to run the cable and all that. Well, it turned out real good. They didn't make me wait until 2:01. They actually came about 5 or 6 minutes early. So I was very happy about that. And anyway, we walked the area where we were going to run the fiber, and we have to cross it's not exactly a regular creek. It's kind of a wet weather creek, but we have to cross that. It's a kind of a deep ditch here, and so they wanted me to clear that area out so they could get their trencher through there. And of course, in about 5 minutes, I had that done because I have my Bobcat, and so I just went through there and smoothed it out where they could get right down through and right across, no problem with their trencher. So things are looking good. I have a feeling that by the end of next week, we'll, maybe have progress on that, but I'm not really 100% sure. The next thing, a lot of people seemed to enjoy the tour of the farm yesterday, so I thought, well, why not just, go outside and just take a picture, just a video, a real quick video, with the live sound of the natural sounds that are here just right outside the front door. And right on cue, a turkey gobbled. So watch, and when you see the words gobble on the screen, that's when he's actually gobbling. So take a watch. Did you hear him gobble? Yep, right on cue. It was just like it was planned, And anyway, I turned it up as loud as I could because obviously it wouldn't, the camera just barely picks that up. And he was way off out there in the field. I bet he was more than a quarter a mile away, and you could still hear it that well. Let's see. So, I showed some of the food plots and things on the farm yesterday. Well, as things happened, Sue went out and made another food plot yesterday. She likes to garden and things, and so she wanted to sow a big plot of sunflowers and some of this, I think it's called heritage type corn. It's the kind of corn that was grown years and years ago, and people saved the seeds, that kind of thing. And so she planted a little food plot and some corn and some sunflowers out there yesterday. I don't have any video or pictures of that, but maybe I'll get some of that once that starts growing and show you what that looks like. She planted it out there by the distant pond. I showed the pond in the video yesterday, and so she planted it out there near that pond. The mic over driving situation, I think, knock on wood, I think I finally got that fixed. I kept thinking about it, and, back in my days of break fix on PCs, I used to design computer systems. They moved the headquarters down to Texas. Then they put me into what they thought of as a flunky job to keep from firing me. And anyway, I was doing break fix on PCs. Well, during that time, I learned a lot about, hardware, software. And my theory was always that it's 99% of the time, it's a software problem. People always blamed it on the hardware, but it's 99% of the time, it was a software problem. In fact, I used to follow people around and grab their hardware out of the trash can, literally, and then go use it again because they think the hardware's bad when it really was a software problem. Well, that's the case with this microphone. I got to studying about that or thinking about it, like at lunch yesterday or whatever, and I thought, the mic's probably fine. It's got to be some kind of a software issue. So I did some testing, and I tested the mic on just Windows voice recorder. It mic'd perfectly. There was no overdriving at all. No matter how I turned this dial, I didn't have any overdriving problems at all. So I thought, well, that makes it more suspicious that it's this Streamlabs. So I go into Streamlabs and I turn this dial all the way down to where it's like 0. It didn't change anything in Streamlabs, nothing. Turned it all the way up, didn't change anything. It just constantly overdrove. No matter what I did, I did a lot of tests. I mean, I probably did 24 tests, playing the mandolin and singing and different things, and every time it would overdrive. So I went into all the settings I could find in Streamlabs. First of all, I went out and looked at all the settings in Windows, and there was nothing seemed to make any difference to Streamlabs that I changed in Windows. And I changed a lot of things, just trial and error. So I came back to Streamlabs, which is the software package we're using right now and sure enough, that's where the problem shows up. It always shows up in Streamlabs. So I went in there and went into all their different audio settings and speaker settings and microphone settings and everything you could think of. And all at once, it started working. And I truly don't know what I did to fix it. A lot of the settings in there are not logical at all. They don't make any sense. And it's really hard to explain. But as of right now, I can tell you right now on my screen, and it shouldn't say this, but it does. It says speakers, and it's got Yeti X Wow Edition, and that's this microphone. And that's what it's saying my speakers are, which is really stupid. It shouldn't say that, but it does. And I tried to change it. In fact, I did change it inside the thing, and it's changed in one place, and that's when I think it started working. But it's not changed in the other place, and I can't figure out how to get it to change in the other place. And, I'm not even going to worry about it since it doesn't seem to be feeding back anymore or overdriving. And I did a lot of tests afterwards, and I restarted the PC and tested it, and it wasn't overdriving. So as far as I can tell, it's not overdriving. If you guys are hearing it overdrive right now, let me know. But as far as I know, it's not overdriving anymore. Okay, so I think that's fixed. At least I hope it is. I'm starting to see some questions scrolling up the screen, and be sure to put question marks in front of your question if you want me to answer your question once we get through the questions we already have in queue, and we do have like 17 questions in queue already. The next thing, Sawmill enhancements. I'm going to make a couple more. Yeah, this is really heavy. This may not look as heavy as it is. It's really heavy. It's solid steel. This is an axle, and it's like a wheel hub. It's some old-time piece of machinery. I don't know, but it's got ball bearings in it, and it does spin. And what I'm thinking of doing is finding a way to mount this on the frame of my sawmill, and the blade would be coming this way, like this, toward this. Then I would mount the log on here. Here's my fake log, just so you can see. So you'd mount your log on like this, a short log for like sawing the backs of a mandolin, that type of thing. So you'd mount your log on here, like so. Then your blade would come into the log like so. And because that can spin, then you just spin it 90 and you'd cut it again. So in other words, you'd cut it this way, you spin it 90, you cut it again, you spin it, and you cut it, and you spin it, and you cut it. And that way you could cut all the pie-shaped wedges out of a log, out of a round log. And then I could take my sawmill and saw them off. In other words, I wouldn't cut all the way down to the steel, obviously. I'd only go in so far and so far and so far, and then cut them all off later. But that way, I should be able to make a bunch of sycamore backs, all quarter sawn, perfectly quarter sawn, and it should really turn out to make some beautiful wood. So anyway, that's my plan. So that's probably what I'll use to do that with. Now, this might be overkill because technically all I'd have to do is lay the log on there, go in so far on the sawmill, and then back out and then spin the log on the sawmill. But that's hard to do and it's hard to control. I think I can control it perfectly with this. And I'll just make it some way to attach it to the sawmill where it's not a permanent thing. And anyway, that's my plan for right now. So I just thought I'd show that to you. Yes, the title of this was about finding some more relics and artifacts. Well, after the guys left for the fiber optic, survey yesterday, I thought, well, I got a little bit of time to kill, so I'll just go out and Sue was back there planting the food plot anyway, so I went back there and looked around back there. And while I was back there, I found this. And it doesn't look very significant, but yet it is another picture holder, believe it or not. And it's got fancy on it. You probably won't be able, yeah, you can see it a little bit there. See the little scroll up in there? So this was one of the deals that they would hang pictures on back in the day. They would either have a wire going across the wall and they'd hang this on the wire, and then they'd hang the picture on this, and then they could slide it along that wire anywhere they wanted to hang their picture. Or they had a special type of trim on the ceiling area, and they would hang this on that, and their picture would hang on that. How do I know that's what this is? Well, you guys told me because I had found another one a long time ago. Now, this one's made different, but again, it's got fancy on it also. And you can see that it was there, and it's even cut out for the wire for the picture. So these are very old. I'm sure they're 1800s. But I found this one yesterday out in the middle of the field, just really not even near where the houses were. Well, I say not near it, a couple of 100 yards from where the houses were. So pretty cool. I found this up closer to the front of the farm, and this is a rhinestone. You can see, whoops, fell out. I caught it in my knees. It was in this little deal. I'm not sure what this was. I'm going to guess this was some kind of decoration on a bridle or something for a horse. That's what I'm guessing. It possibly could have been some sort of jewelry, but I kind of think it was probably more horse tack than anything, but don't really know for sure. I'm sure it's just glass. Of course, why would I assume that? It's probably a ruby. I'm probably rich. If you had a ruby that large, you'd be rich. Let's see, if I'm looking, I can actually see through it, at least light coming through it. So anyway, I found that up close to the house. My wife found this back there when she was putting out her new food plot, gardening. Do you know what this is? Anybody know what this is? You old-timers, farmers will know. This hung around Bessie's neck. You know who Bessie was. Good old cow, but kind of messy. So you'd hang this around your milk cow's neck, and you'd know where your milk cow was when you went out to go find her out in the pasture. So that's what that was. That's the first one and only one of these we found so far. Found a modern quarter out in the field. This was out here closer to the front of the property, but it was still a couple of 100 yards out in the field. And it's a 1980, nothing to write home about, but it's still kind of odd to just find it out in the middle of the field, And let's see, I found this a week or so ago, and if you don't know what this is a very old, I can tell, and hand forged. This is off of a single tree again. And a single tree is a piece of wood that goes through here, and there'd be another one of these on the other side of the piece of wood. So it's a piece of wood that's about the width of your animal, like a horse or a cow or whatever, a bull, whatever it is that you're using to pull your cart with. And anyway, that single tree would have one of these on each end, and then these chains here would hook back to your implement, like your plow or whatever. So there'd be a chain off of each end going back to your plow. And then there's a single link going to, I said that wrong. The doubles go up to the animal, and the single goes back to the implement. So anyway, there's a single one in the middle going the other direction. So, anyway, I'll get it right here in a minute. But you have the one on each end that goes up to the harness of the animal, and then the single one goes back to your implement in the middle. Anyway, that's what that was. Found that out in the middle of the field. I'm pretty sure I showed this before, but I still think this is one of the coolest things I've ever found here. I found this just recently. This you can see on their Anheuser-Busch emblem. This was a matchbox. Now, I found this recently. I had found this one a long time ago. Actually, my brother found this one. This is the front of the same matchbox, I think. This is the front of it. And this was the back. And they went like this. And then there was a lid that went on the top, and you kept your matches in this. This was an advertising thing from Anheuser-Busch. And this is dated about 1885 or 1886. I can't remember now. But this was an advertising product for malt Nutrien. Malt Nutrien was a very low alcoholic beverage that was promoted and marketed toward pregnant women, believe it or not. So it was a low alcohol drink marketed toward pregnant women, and it was a match case. Thought that was pretty cool from the 1800s. All right, without further ado, here's what I found yesterday that has Civil War written all over it. It's another three-ringer bullet, and you can see the white patina on it. It's hard to see the three rings. This one has been chewed beyond belief. See the teeth marks in it? There's teeth marks all in it. Now, there's two schools of thought on these teeth marks. One of them was that literally the soldiers would bite down on them when they were in pain, like, getting their arm cut off, that type of thing. When, like, they'd been shot or whatever, and they were dressing the wounds or cutting their arm off or cutting their leg off, and they would bite down on it. That's one school of thought. Do I believe that school of thought? Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. I don't doubt that didn't happen a little bit, but honestly, a lead bullet's a lot harder than you think, and you pretty much break your teeth biting on it. And there are so many bite marks on this. If you look at it close, and I'll try to get it where it'll focus, but there's so many bite marks on this that I don't think this was a human. I think this was some animal. Aquachigger says it's wild hogs that are rooting around and bite on these things. I don't think this was wild hogs either, because I think that the tooth marks would be bigger and deeper, and there wouldn't be so many. This is real small teeth marks. I don't know what it's from. I honestly don't, but if I was guessing, I'd say moles, gophers, field rats, mice, something like that is what I'm guessing. And that's just a guess. Don't have a good honest guess on it. But it's definitely an old three-ringer Civil War, I can't think of the right word now, but mini ball. And the caliber, I didn't check the caliber yet. I was going to do that. So my calipers have left again. I don't think they're, here they are. So let's just check what the caliber is on this. For those of you who don't know, your caliber is measured in thousands of inches. And so let's just measure it. This one is a little bit smaller, I think, than the first one. This one's a 58 caliber. 58 caliber here. Now, a lot of people told me the first one I found was a 58 caliber. Look at the difference. Huge difference. This thing is monstrous. This one's big compared to the other one. Big, huge difference. This one's a 69 caliber. This was the first three-ringer I found. So here's the other ones I found. I found two more bullets. These are, I think, Sharps, and there's another one, Inman or something like that. I forget now what it is. But like this one's another three-ringer, and then this one's a different style. So my point is, I'm finding that's 4 different Civil War bullets. Now, my first thought was it could have just been some soldier that brought his gun back with him. I doubt he brought 4 different calibers, 4 different guns, because this is 4 different deals here, and the calibers are different. So I kind of think something happened with the Civil War here, finding this much stuff. I found these 2 brass casings. These are Fitch Van Vecht These were made in 1864, 1865. And then I also found a Civil War uniform button, General Service. It's got an eagle on it. I don't know if I've got the eagle turned the right way where you can see it or not. There's the right way, I think. I don't know if it's going to focus on it, though. Probably not. Anyway, it's not focusing very good, but there's a lot of evidence there. So I'm beginning to think something actually did happen here, battle-wise, on the Civil War. Like I said, at first I didn't think so. I figured it was probably just a soldier came back from the war, you know. Now, we do have a Civil War grave at the far end of the property. It's not on our property. It's on the next property. And technically, that property is now owned by the National Forest. And somebody asked a question about that in the question, so we'll get to that a little bit later. That's pretty much it. And by the way, just as a little bit of a comparison, this is one of the smaller Civil War bullets. Here's a modern bullet. See how much smaller the modern bullet is? Much smaller. You know, so these Civil War bullets, you get hit. That's why everything was amputation. You get hit with one of those suckers, it's coming off. You're not fixing that, you know. So that was a brutal, brutal war. Now, these things here could be Civil War too. I don't call them Civil War because I can't prove one way or the other. These are, whoops, well, can't hold them either. Round balls that are also white patina, so they're very old. And that one must have went on the floor. Oh, it did. Went on the floor and came back out. So, and this one's a pistol, I'm sure, but they're very old. I know the light's not working very well there. But I don't even call these Civil War because I can't say for sure. But that could be more evidence of Civil War activity. So anyway, there's something happened here that was Civil War related. And I guess that's everything I was going to show you this morning. I did find a bunch more stuff, a lot more stuff, but mostly nothing that really that significant, and a lot of shotgun head stamps. The shotgun shell head stamps, most people don't like to find. I kind of like to find them because you can date those. And most of the ones I have found here have dated from either the 1920s or older, down to before 1890s, 1885 in fact. I found a lot of shotgun head stamps in that time frame. Okay, I'm over all that stuff. We're going to move on to the next thing. The first question that we have from John, he says, "Hi, Jerry. Greetings from down under Australia. How is the arthritis? I have sent you some emails in the past. Don't know if you got them." Well, if it's recent emails, probably haven't read them yet, to be honest. But he goes on and talks about some friends that had arthritis and that they went to see a horse vet, and the vet has some sort of a ring that he puts on their fingers and spins it around somehow or another, and it crushes the calcium buildup, and it's good for 5 or 6 years, they say. You know, I'm not opposed to trying something like that if I thought it would help me. I don't think it's going to help me, John, because my worst pain is in the basal area. This is a real common arthritis type thing, and boy, I'm just touching that just now, and I just moved and I felt it pop, and that does not feel good. It's really painful in both hands now, and I do have arthritis in all the other joints and knuckles too. In fact, it's pretty bad according to the x-rays and according to the doctors. And but honestly, that's not where I have the pain. I don't have the pain up there so much. In the fingers, that doesn't really hurt that much. It's mostly through here's where the real pain is. Occasionally it's in the fingers too, but not that much. So I'm not too worried about that, and I don't think that type of treatment will work probably on this area down here. I don't think it will anyway. But I also, just for the record, it's not just the hands. I've got it through my whole spine and neck. The doctors have looked at that too, and they say that it's pretty far gone. And I've shrunk in height more than a full inch. It's all the way down my spine, both hips, In fact, 20 years ago, my arthritis was so bad in my hips already that the doctors were kind of shocked about it. And when they took the x-rays, because I was in there for back trouble. And it just so happened they were doing the lower back, and you could see, and I said, what are those big white spots all over my hips? He goes, that's your arthritis. It's pretty bad. That was 25 years ago, or 20 years ago at least. So anyway, I appreciate the thoughts on the arthritis, guys, but I'm over it. I'm not even trying to fix it anymore. I've had so many doctors look at it, and they all go, yeah, it's a little too far gone for me. That's their answer on everybody that's looked at it. And I don't know. I just haven't found anything that works. And I've even quit taking the pain medicine. And quite honestly, at first I thought that was a mistake, but honestly, I don't hardly notice the difference. So I think the reason I thought it was a mistake is because we had real bad weather about the time I quit taking it, and I was in worse pain at that time. But really, the pain has settled back down to about where it was when I was on the medicine. So, I don't really think anything's really helping at all. Mike Curtin, when you're finishing an instrument, what sequence of materials do you use? Well, again, I have to give you my standard caveat. I am no finish expert at all. But the sequence of things that I do, of course, is, you first got to prep the surface. The surface has to be really prepped. And as good as you think it is, go further and do more, because you'll need more and you'll need to do more prep. I mean, honestly, you can't hardly prep a surface good enough. That's the hardest part of it, is getting it ready to finish. So, sanding, scraping, sanding, whatever it takes until you really need to take it out and look at it in different lights and make sure you don't see scratches and things. Get it out in the sun, look at it in different ways. A lot of people will take and dampen the surface, of course, and then resand it again. That does help. So anyway, that's your first step. And the second step would be to use some sort of a grain filler if you can. I don't get along with grain fillers. They don't work for me at all. Zero, none, not one of them, except CA glue. CA glue works. And there's some CA glues that are marketed specifically for doing that, but the problem I had up till now, and I wouldn't use them, is because they smelled so bad. I mean, the fumes are so bad to me. I seriously have issues just using CA glue in very tiny quantities, let alone spreading it all over the whole instrument. It's just impossible for me. But I have since got this CA glue here. This is a odorless CA glue, and it's Starbond, and the prior CA glues that I've used with the Starbond brand have been very good, so I'm assuming this is going to be good, and it is odorless. So when and if I get around to building that dobro, I am going to use this to fill the pores. For me, that's the only pore filler that works. That's just my opinion. And like I said, and I have had many. See if I can fix the focus again. Nope. Try it one more time. Yeah, it did it. I've actually had the CEO of two different pore filler type companies on the line talking to me about how to use them and, and it didn't help. Nothing. So anyway. I'm off that. But anyway, so then I guess then the next sequence would be just coat after coat after coat after coat of finish until you get sick of doing it, until it meets your expectations, And I either use a spray-on lacquer, or recently I've turned to the spray-on gunstock varnish, the True Oil varnish. Now, my buddy down there in Mississippi, Jesse Burge, he said he doesn't like the gunstock varnish. Well, I kind of get it. It's a pain in the neck, and I do think, though, sound-wise, I think it's really hard to beat. And yeah, it doesn't have the same look as the lacquer. The lacquer has more of the standard, music store gloss shine look than the gunstock varnish does. But the gunstock varnish can look really good too if you put on enough of it and buff it out properly and all that. It can look really good, but it'll have a little bit of a more of a slightly yellowish color, I guess you'd say, or an amber color than the clear lacquer will. So you just have to make your own decision on your actual finish. I'm not real big on polyurethane finishes because they're more soft. I like a hard, crisp finish. Both the nitrocellulose lacquer and the gunstock varnish get hard and crisp, and that's what you want. And the old-time varnishes on the old-time fiddles, Stradivari, etc., those varnishes got hard and crisp also. A lot of those old-timers will tell you that those finishes were flexible, but they really weren't. They're very glass-like. At least that's been my experience, and I've repaired a lot of them, and they all seem glass-like to me. So anyway, that's my opinion. That's about everything I know, Mike, on finishing. I hope that makes sense. Nan Inlow, would you please show the wall where your instruments are hanging up, waiting for your hiatus to end? Well, let me first burst the bubble. I don't really have a wall, but I do have a shelf. And I don't have a lot of instruments waiting because I have a waiting list. Instead, I have 22 people on the waiting list. There's only 2 instruments actually waiting, and here's a picture of those. So the 2 on the left there are the ones that are waiting, and that's the shelf. And typically that shelf is completely full. Those ones on the far right are just my own instruments, just sitting up there taking up space for now. But whenever I, get busy with instruments, that whole shelf is full of people's instruments generally. I try not to let it get any fuller than one shelf full because that's a lot of time right there. If you have that many instruments up on the shelf, yeah, it's going to take a while to get through them, especially depending on how complicated the work is. And sometimes it's pretty darn complicated. Moving on to the next one, Curtis Mealer. Hi, Jerry, or hey, Jerry. I've enjoyed your channel for a little more than 2 years now. I look forward to seeing it daily. Just wondering if a laser pointer would be helpful on your sawmill. I don't know if it would be easier to measure the thickness and all that. Anyway, it says, just a thought, he says, and Curtis from Newman, Georgia. Well, Curtis, I've definitely thought of that myself. I actually have a couple laser pointers here. I have 2 issues with laser pointers. First of all, I'm colorblind and I have trouble seeing it to begin with. Second of all, I can't see them out in the daylight at all. And I don't know if other people can or not. I know they're hard to see in the daylight for anybody. And I know you got those special glasses you can put on and it helps you see. And that does help, those special glasses. So I just haven't done it mainly because of those reasons. Because I'm almost thinking it's more hassle than it's worth. But I'm still not ruling it out. I might do it one of these days. If I had the sawmill under a roof, I'd almost guarantee you I'd do it because that way it would be in the shade and I could see the light better. But I haven't done it for that reason. And I don't think that would have anything to do with the measuring at all. My measuring works really good. I'm super happy with the way I've got my measuring working. But the reason I would want the laser thing is to know where to make that first cut because it'll tell you where the bark, like that round and the fact that the log is tapered, that first cut's hard to judge how much you need to cut to get a full cut off the full length of the log. And so that's the reason I would want the laser is just for that very first cut. And after that, I probably wouldn't use it at all. Well, maybe when I do the 180 or anyway, I might use it 4 cuts, on the 4 cuts where I cut the round off of the log to square the log up. So I might use it 4 times per log. But I wouldn't use it for the actual measuring of the thickness of the lumber because I don't really need it for that. Clyde Lewis says, Jerry, thanks for showing us around your farm. I love the layout of the land. I was wondering how far down you generally have to dig before you hit rock. Well, I'm going to show you. About that far. I'm not exaggerating. You can't, I guarantee you, well, I shouldn't say guarantee, but I challenge you to go take a knife and go out there anywhere you want to and stick it in the ground and see if you miss a rock. I bet you won't. It's rocky everywhere. It's just gravel, basically. And people were worried when I used to have bluegrass festivals here on the farm. And people would worry, because every time you have a bluegrass festival, it's going to rain. There is no doubt about that. That's a black and white given. If you have a bluegrass festival, it will rain, period. And so every time I had one, I had like 5 of them, it rained every time. Everybody was worried, am I going to get be able to get out? I go, I'm telling you, you're on solid rock. You won't sink. And nobody sunk. Nobody got stuck. Nobody even spun a tire, I don't think. And it rained hard a couple of times, and their big campers are out there in the field and everything. No, it's just solid rock. Trust me. It's just everywhere. In the very bottom ground, it's rock mixed with some good black dirt. So, there's some decent growing dirt, but it's pretty much gravel throughout the whole dirt, Moving on here, the rest of his question, it's a long question, I think. Also, about guitar repair stuff, I've heard you mention filling damaged areas with sawdust, glue sometimes, and then while you use wood filler at other times. Is there a determining factor when you decide to use one instead of the other? And do you always use one type of glue for the sawdust repair? Wasn't sure if one kind would be easier to sand after doing the filling. Well, Clyde, I'm not real big on using the sawdust and glue method. I'm not real big on that at all. And I'll tell you why. It's because you do it, and it shrinks, and you do it again, and it shrinks, and you do it again, and it shrinks, and you do it one more time, and it'll still shrink. It shrinks every time I do that method. And I've tried it a bunch of different times with a bunch of different glues, and it just, I guess if you did it with sawdust and maybe epoxy, you might be fine, but I don't like the idea of epoxy. So I'm not real big on the sawdust and glue thing, even though I know lots of people just swear by it. Now, I will do the sawdust and glue, and like you said, is there a determining reason? I will do it if it's a really small defect, and I'm really trying to hide the defect as best as possible. I will do the sawdust and glue there because it's such a small defect, it can't shrink very much. But if it's a very large defect, it's just, you're wasting your time. And so I go to the filler then, and I use this particular filler. One of my wonderful viewers, and I don't remember who, put me onto this filler. And quite honestly, this stuff's the best stuff, really. You can stain it really easy. I only buy the white. I don't even bother with all the colors. This thing comes in just about every color you can imagine. But because I use the dyes to match colors anyway, I just put the white in and then dye it to match, and it works perfectly. This stuff dyes really easily. But this doesn't shrink very much. It'll shrink the slightest amount. But compared to the glue and the sawdust, this doesn't shrink at all compared to that. So it's pretty good. It's called Timbermate, in case you couldn't read it. I really do like that stuff. It's good stuff. Quite honestly, it's kind of like drywall mud. And quite honestly, drywall mud would probably be just fine as long as you stain it. You know what I'm saying? Probably no different, really. And honestly, this is what that reminds me of. It does really remind me of drywall mud. Very much so. And it sands real easy. The glue and the sawdust, because I use it on such small places, it sands real easy too. I don't have any problem with it. And I just, as far as the glue goes, I just typically use whatever wood glue I'm using, which is usually Tite Bond Original. Alonzo Quesada. Hi, Jerry. Hope you and your family are good. Are you planning on making longer format videos on your upcoming projects or just stick to updates during the vlogs? No, I do plan to make longer format videos. In fact, I've got one planned for today and for this weekend, and haven't started it yet. But it'll be on some of the upgrades I made to the sawmill, I think. And it'll be more detail, and you'll see a full-blown video on that, I think. But hopefully I'll get to that today, or a lot going on. But speaking of today, I'm playing this evening at it's called The Center. It's in Rolla. It's kind of like a sports complex type of athletic workout facility, swimming pool, the whole bit. It's a large kind of multi-purpose building, and my band and I will be playing there this evening during the art show. They have a local art show this evening of local artists, and I think they even feature some woodworking and things like that. I've thought I should put my mandolin on display there, but I never have. I should do that, really. But anyway, we'll be playing there this evening, and if you're in the local area, we start, I think, around 5 o'clock. So if you could come by, feel free to come by. So anyway, to answer your question, Alonzo, yes, I do plan to make longer format videos, and the first one should be out this weekend, I hope. And I do already have another one or two in the can as well, and we'll get to those as soon as we can as well, too. The fact that I'm doing this all by myself again, it's overwhelming. It really is. It's hard to explain how overwhelming it is. It was overwhelming when I had help, and it's really overwhelming now. Okay, the next one is from, the username is Diabetum, Diabetim. About your sawmill, banded blades have a tendency to wander. Yeah, I know that for sure. If they are not the same sharpness on the inside compared to the outside, yeah, I get that too. And he goes on to talk about, that the cedar is very corrosive. It's hard on the blade, all that. Yeah, I think so, but it seems softer than the oak and all the other stuff. But maybe you're right. Maybe it is a little more abrasive. I'm not really sure. But anyway, it is a pretty new blade that was on there. In fact, it was a brand new blade when I put it on there. And I haven't sawed very much cedar compared to how much wood we sawed with the old blade that when Alex was here. I haven't sawed even a tenth that much. So I don't know. I'm not really sure what's causing the wander. I am very, very much aware of the different blade issues that can happen because I got 2 bandsaws right here in the shop, and I've been using bandsaws my whole life. So I'm pretty much aware of all those kinds of issues. A lot of other people suggested, and I appreciate all the suggestions, you understand. I was just looking for something maybe I hadn't thought of, and pretty much everything that was suggested I've thought of, but a lot of them have suggested that maybe the frame is too lightweight and maybe it's giving as I'm pushing. And I'm not saying that couldn't happen to some minor degree. It probably does. But I've got the frame braced really well, first of all, and second of all, it's a very heavy frame. It's far heavier than any frame you're going to get on a commercial-made sawmill. Those commercial-made sawmills are just thin sheet metal, bent around type thing. This thing is solid 1/4-inch steel. It's heavy. And I do have it jacked. I have a jack in the middle of the sawmill of the bed so that it can't push down. When the carriage travels over it, when it gets to the midpoint, there's a jack directly under there where it can't go down. And then there's jacks on both ends. So could I use more jacks? Maybe, but honestly, it seems pretty strategic the way I've got it jacked up, and it doesn't seem to give. So I'm not ruling that out. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying that right now that doesn't seem like the problem. But I think there might be some slight measurement difference from one end to the other on the blade height. So I'm going to check that out more and thoroughly. And I think that's where I'm headed as far as where the problem is. But I'm not sure. It still could be some sort of a blade wander thing. But generally, when the blade wanders, once it comes out of the cut, you'll see it pop up or pop down or something. And I've had that issue in the past. That's not what's happening right now. So I don't know. Just really don't know, but I appreciate everybody offering suggestions and things. And, I'm just looking for something that I haven't maybe thought of yet. Letha Chris, she didn't really have question marks in front of it, but she just had a comment there and a question at the end. It said, lovely nature pics. Do you have bears for your caves? I would love to go fishing there. Have you seen all of the babies? So cute. She's talking about the babies at my son's farm right next door. And yeah, I've seen most of them. I don't know if I saw the most recent one or not, but I have seen the other ones. I see them all pretty much as I drive in and out, because I'm driving right past his barn there and his stables and his pastures and things, and most of the horses are out on pasture. Paul Akers, about the bears for the caves. No, I haven't seen any bears yet, but our neighbors over the hill claim that, well, they showed me pictures of 3 different bears on their game camera. I truly have not seen a bear or any sign of a bear here yet, but it would not surprise me if they're not around here. The next question is Bert Pichon. Does Cash have a good pick? If not, which one would you recommend? Well, Bert, he just had his birthday, and one of his family members bought him a whole bunch of picks, and I think they either have his name on them, or it's a brand of pick that is associated to his name somehow, his middle name or something. And so he just got a bunch of picks. So I would say that he's fixed up pretty good. He seems to like them, and he enjoys using those. And they seem like pretty good picks. They're a white, kind of a harder type plastic. I'm not really sure which plastic they are, but they seem fairly equivalent to that purple Tortex pick that I kind of promote generally. If you don't want to spend the big bucks for the blue chip picks, I'm very fortunate. I had 2 of them. I seem to have lost one. I cannot find it. It might be in some mandolin, stuck in a mandolin somewhere that I'm not aware of, but I still have the one, and I keep it with my world's finest mandolin ever built by a human. And I play it every Tuesday evening. So thank you to the 2 wonderful viewers that sent me those blue chip picks. They're terrific. I absolutely love those picks. And the main reason why I love them is not necessarily the feel or the sound or any of that. They just don't wear out. That's what I like about them. They don't wear at all. I play hard. And those purple picks, in one evening, I'll have the end rounded off. I've been playing these Tortex picks for like 2 years now, and you can't even see any wear on them. It's amazing. Just amazing. I said Tortex. Blue chip picks. I've been playing the blue chip picks for the last 2 years now, and you can't see any wear on them at all. Paul Akers, how high should the action be at the first fret on an acoustic guitar in thousandths of an inch? Well, Paul, I always use the Martin Thin pick. And I get confused on whether it's 16 thousandths or 18 thousandths. Let me just double check it here just to be sure. I think there's a slight variance in some of them. This one here is brand new pick here. It says, this one says 17 thousandths. So right around that. Now let me caveat that I like, the large E string, the big E string. I basically have this just touching as I'll pick the string and then slide this in, and I just barely want this to be touching as it's vibrating. On the E string, on the small E string, by the time I get there, each one of them gets progressively tighter. And by the time I get to the small E string, I want it to raise the string maybe a few thousandths of an inch. So it's just slightly tighter until you get to the small E string. So you're probably still at around 12, 13 thousandths on the small E string. To give you your measurements. So I don't measure in thousandths on that because it's just kind of hard to do, really, other than with a feeler gauge, and it just takes too much time. It's so much. I like to do things that are simple, practical, and to me, this very fine pick is the practical, simple way to do it. And since I've gotten used to doing it, I can keep them all very, very similar with this. And it's fast. That's what I like about it. Henry Miller, okay, this is a long one. The Washburn Advanced Jumbo Limited Edition, only made from 2008 to 2009, that I asked you about last week, arrived, and it is a great guitar. It has about width a 1/4 inch wider than my 2006 Washburn D52 SW Dreadnought, and the sides are 3/16 inch deeper, which makes a much deeper, richer sound. And it's nicely tempered with that cedar top that as you suggested. Yeah, those cedar tops it's hard to build a bad guitar with a cedar top, or a western cedar or redwood, either one. It's just hard to build a bad instrument with that. Then he goes into his question. My Washburn D52 is currently out of commission as the back of the bridge is beginning to lift off about 15 thousandths of an inch. And yes, there is a bulge in the top behind the bridge. Now, he actually wrote this as 0.15. That would be 150 thousandths. And I don't think that's what he means. I think he means 15 thousandths. So it would be 0.015, I think. If it's really 150 thousandths, that's more than an 1/8 inch up. And if it's more than an 1/8 inch up, it's time to take it off, put it back on, 15 thousandths, since it's your own instrument and you're doing your own work, I always say do the simple thing first. So I would try to get in there and clean it out with something. See if I can find the tool. I'll never find it on camera, no doubt. I don't think I'm going to find it. I don't see it. I made a little wooden tool that, and I'm just going to simulate what I did here. I'll do it with this little square one, because I used a real small piece of square, thin steel like this, and I super glued a little stick on it right here, like this, like a little wooden dowel. And it's smaller than this. This is large. I'm talking probably half this width and maybe 2/3 this long. And I glued a little dowel to it. And then I can get in there and scrape under saddles or under bridges like that with that and clean it out and get all the, the crud, like maybe the glue buildup, and, scrape anything out of there that you can get out. And that's what I use to do that. Well, anyway, I would try that method first. I'd try cleaning it out, squirting your Titebond original glue back in there, clamping it down real good. Make sure, and do dry testing on it. Make sure you can clamp it good before you do all the other stuff. Make sure you can clamp it. And as soon as you can, as soon as you can clamp it really well and get it really tight all the way across there, then do all that. Clean it out, get your glue in there and all that. Clamp it down really good. Let it set for a day or two. I would let it set for, if you can, just let it set for 2 days. And then take your clamps off. And that'd give you your best chance. That's the simple, easy way to fix it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, what have you lost? So then you're at the point where you got to take the bridge off if that doesn't work. So that's how I would go about it, since it's my own instrument, that type of thing. Now, the reason I don't do that very often here with instruments is because the customers are wanting a permanent fix, and I want to make sure I give them a permanent fix. That's why I go ahead and take the bridge off and fix it right all the way from start to finish. And it's a permanent fix that way. So that's why I do that mostly rather than the simple thing in that particular case. You've heard me say I do the simple thing whenever I can, and I always do. If I can, I always try the simple thing first, because you can always go to the hard thing. Okay. I think that, and he goes on to talk about the possibility of braces being loose on the inside. Well, certainly I would absolutely check that, and I would get in there with a mirror and look at that. And if you see anything obvious, then you need to address that as well. And I would even address that first. So yeah, it's always good to check that out. Yeah, he said that he did check it, but he didn't see any pronounced gaps or anything. But you know, it's really hard to see all that stuff, and yeah, it's just hard to explain how difficult some of that is to do. And if you do find it, it's really hard to get glue up in there anyway, and then get it clamped. So all I can do is wish you good luck with that. Graham Hansel, hi Jerry. I watched your videos way back when you described how you purchased the property. Did you realize at the time just how much land you were buying? Yeah, I did, because I've lived this type of life. I worked in St. Louis County and worked downtown St. Louis and all that, but I grew up on a horse farm, and my dad had pastures all over Missouri. He had them everywhere, and he had large pastures. Some of them were 600 acres, or were they bigger than that? I'm trying to think. 700 acres, I think it was his biggest pasture. So I was pretty familiar with 280 acres, and I knew what I was getting into. But I can tell you right now, it will really make you appreciate how big it is when you start walking over these hills. I mean, if you just walk down the valley, it's no big deal. It is 1 mile from one end of the valley to the other. It's exactly 1 mile. And on this end, it's exactly a half mile across. And then halfway down, in other words, a half mile down, it narrows down to 3/8 of a mile width. So it's like an L shape. But yeah, you'll really appreciate how big it is when you start walking over the hills, because they're on the sides, like the valley's small in a way. I mean, it seems really big, but I'm going to guess it's 60 acres, maybe, the valley. Well, that leaves 220 acres of woods that are hills. And when you walk through that, trust me, you'll know you did something. But anyway, moving on to the next one. Scott Cord. I have a Taylor GS mini guitar that is 7 cents sharp. This is a good one here, guys. Pay attention. I have a Taylor GS mini guitar that is 7 cents sharp at the 1st fret, and it gets sharper as you move down to the 12th fret, and it's about 15 cents sharp. I use light gauge strings. I've tried changing strings. That didn't help. And he goes on to give some more measurements. He's saying at the 12th fret, on the low E, he is 120 thousandths high. Well, that's part of your problem for sure, because you do want to get that down in the neighborhood of 100 thousandths for sure, or less. I would say 90 thousandths is where you want to be on your low E. You could even be a little lower, and it might help you a little bit more, but you want to get it down to 90 for sure on your low E. And on your high E, you want to get it down to about 80 thousandths at the 12th fret. Now, that will help you some on your problem, but if it truly is as sharp as you're saying, it's not going to fix it, but it'll help it. Instead of 15 cents sharp at the 12th fret, you might only be 9 or 10. It might help it that much. It might even help it a little bit more than that, but I'm going to say conservatively, you'll probably be around 9 or 10 if you drop it that much. So that's my first recommendation, is try the simple thing first, and that is dropping the height of that saddle down. Now, it sounds like your saddle's pretty close to the height of your bridge already, based on your other measurements there. So you're probably going to have to take the top of your bridge down a little bit. Now, I would only do that if the bridge is fairly thick already. If your bridge is if it's already lower than 300 thousandths inch thick off the top of your guitar, in other words, you could take this and, I don't know how to simulate this very well, but let's pretend this is the bridge and my hand is the top of the guitar. If you measure down like this with this little protruding deal here, and if that's under 300 thousandths, then I probably wouldn't want to thin your bridge very much. If you're 300 thousandths or more, I would say you could probably thin it down to the minimum I would say I would thin it down to would be about 280 thousandths, 290 thousandths. I really wouldn't want to thin it down much more than that. But if you can thin your bridge down and get some saddle height back, then that's what I do to be able to lower your action. If you can't do any of that, if that just isn't practical for your situation, then you're possibly talking a neck reset, unless there's bracing issues on yours. Unless if you got a big hump there or something, I don't know. But back to the original problem, where you say that it's sharp, then typically what that means, as sharp as yours is that your bridge is just in the wrong place. And you might say, well, it's a tailor, it can't be in the wrong place. Trust me, they can be in the wrong place. I've seen it, not so much on tailors, I'll be honest, but I've seen it on countless guitars where the bridges are in the wrong place because they just simply rely on measurements. And, while they do make them in sort of a mass production thing, there's always little variances here and there that can happen. And your bridge can just be in the wrong place. So that could be the problem. And sounds like it is if it's off by that much. 15 cents sharp is pretty good amount. If you were starting with 10 and as high as you are, I'd say you could improve it well enough you wouldn't have to do anything. But if you're starting at 15 and trying to improve it by dropping your saddle down, I'm not sure you're going to get there and be totally satisfied. But you'll certainly improve it. I think that's all I got. I hope that makes sense, Scott. Good luck to you. James Kopp, tell me more about the national forest that surrounds your property. I flew into St. Louis yesterday and had a long layover. My wife and I met two other couples our age, both from Missouri, and discussed your channel and your son's channel. Thank you. I appreciate you spreading the word. Anyway, they said there's a lot of forested area in our area and that forestry or logging is a major industry, and that's true. The Ozarks are real big and always have been really big in logging, especially oak. Pine, there used to be native pine forests, but quite honestly, there's very few native pine forests anymore. The pine if there was pine on this property, it was cut a long time ago. And there's a scattered pine tree here and there on this property, but it's just a few. You could probably count all of them on one hand. I tried to plant them. So sad. I tried to plant a whole bunch of pine trees when I first bought this place. In fact, I planted hundreds. First of all, there was a major drought when I planted them, so most of them didn't live. And the ones I planted along the creek did live, but guess what happened there? Sue and her dad, in their infinite wisdom, decided to brush hog right along the creek, and that tells you the rest of that story. So anyway, I don't have any pine trees here. But logging is a major thing, and there are lots of pine trees in the national forest around us. But as far as telling you anything about the national forest, all I can really tell you is that it's very large. It's called the Mark Twain National Forest, and it's broken up into segments, and there's different places around here, and they're all called Mark Twain National Forest. But my place is pretty much surrounded by it. The whole west length of my property, the full mile, is completely national forest, the whole length. The back 3/8 of a mile across the back is all national forest. Coming back on this side, most of this on the east side is private ground. But there is a little chunk of like 40 acres or something that's right in the middle there that's national forest. That's kind of broken up. It's landlocked. But anyway, so I'm mostly surrounded by national, well, I should say not mostly, but about half surrounded by national forest. And the other half, my front line here is my son, and now I think about it, national forest there too. So my son has part of it, and national forest has part of the front line too. So I'd say more than half national forest. But that's about all I can really tell you about it. I assume that the Mark Twain came from the fact that Mark Twain was a Missouri boy as he was growing up. And so I assume that's where the name came from. Moving on, Eagle Blues, My Hobby Guitars. That's his full username. Eagle Blues, My Hobby Guitars. That's his username. He just says, so cool, which I think he's talking about my video from yesterday. I just made a video of my little farm. It'll be posting later this week. I do have a video question. How long does it take to upload video that you do? Mine, and he goes on to say, mine, a 15-minute video takes me over 2 hours. I am not on cable. I have CenturyLink. If I do over 30 minutes, it will take almost 4 hours to upload. So I was wanting to know how long yours took and what internet do you use? Well, presently I'm using Starlink, and it's pretty good. I mean, I don't have too many complaints with it. It's hit and miss though. It's good and it's bad, and it's good and it's bad. And overall, but it's by far superior to anything I've had up to this point. So there's no even comparison to anything I've had up to this point. So it only takes me, really it takes about the length of the video. If it's a 30-minute video, it takes about 30 minutes to upload. I mean, that's just a rough estimate. If it's an hour-long video, it takes about an hour to upload. So it's pretty good. I'm assuming that this fiber is going to be even better. And at least probably more dependable. Like whenever you have a rainstorm, a heavy rainstorm, well, the Starlink will just basically go down during the real heavy rainstorm. But I have probably had more and used more different internet options than probably anybody you guys know. I seriously have tried everything. Everything from just a stupid phone modem thing at the beginning to 2 or 3 different satellite options. I've had a tower option, which was a radio wave option. In fact, that was called Wave Internet. And that radio wave was shot all the way from Rolla to here and then down to my house. I've had the extended DSL option. I've had several cellular options. So I've had well over a dozen different kinds of internet services here. I'm pretty sure this fiber one is my last one. I thought the Starlink was going to be my last one until I found out about the fiber. And the good news on the fiber is that it's even faster than the Starlink, and it's actually even cheaper. It's about $30 or $40 a month cheaper for me. So it's a no-brainer, really. Hope that answers your questions. Good luck with what you're doing there. Russell Hardy, Jerry, you may have told the story before, but I'd be interested to hear about how long you've owned the farm, how you happened to purchase it. There's a lot of pollen around here. It's got me messed up. How you happened to purchase it, major projects you've done on the property since you bought the property. Well, Russell, I'll tell you this. I have told this a few times, and I'm sorry if I'm boring some of you, but I had been looking for a farm because I knew I was going to try to take early retirement as soon as they offered it. And I was only 45 when they offered it, and everybody said, "You can't take it. You're only 45." I said, "Watch me," because I had invested money and saved 10% of my salary for like 20 some years. And so I had a pretty good chunk of change invested in the stock market, and I had made real good returns on that. And so I had a pretty good self-imposed, retirement plan, if you will. And of course, that worked great until as soon as I retired, the market went in the flipping toilet. And I started losing money just almost instantly. In fact, the week before I retired, I'm not kidding you, I lost $250,000. I mean, it's pitiful. All right. Well, anyway, because of that, that's why I was looking for a farm in early retirement, and so I had been looking for several months, and then when I there was this particular website called Wilson something, I forget now, real estate up in St. Louis, and they mostly deal with high-end executive type estates and properties and things like that. Well, I had checked their website, a couple times, and that particular morning I checked it and nothing was there. And that evening, my brother-in-law calls me. He says, "Did you check Wilson's site today?" And I said, "No." And I said, "Yeah, I checked it. There was nothing there." He says, "You better check it again." He said, "There's something out there right now." And this was like 9 or 9:30 at night. And I got on there and looked, and sure enough, here's what it said. It said, 280 acres surrounded by Mark Twain National Forest, 2 houses, like 11 outbuildings, 2 wells. The main house was absolutely huge, like a lodge, they said, like 7,000 square feet. You just on and on and on, 4 fireplaces, and just on and on and on and on. And then the price, now keep in mind, it's 280 acres. The price was $250,000. I went, "Are you kidding me? Hey, that's impossible. It can't be $250,000 for 280 acres with all that stuff." I said, "It's got to be a misprint." So I start calling, and I finally got the realtor and got him out of bed at 10:30 at night. And I said, "I'm going to be there first thing tomorrow morning to look at that property." He goes, "Well, you're in luck." He says, we're showing it tomorrow for the first time. But unfortunately, I hate to tell you, you're going to be 5th in line." I said, "5th in line? How in the heck could that be?" I said, "You just listed it today." And he's going, "I know." But he says, believe it or not, there's people flying in from New York City. They're going to be here in the morning. There's people driving in from Oklahoma City going to be here. And there's 2 other couples from St. Louis that are going to be here. So you're the 3rd couple from St. Louis. I said, "Okay." Well, I got here at like 9 in the morning then because I wasn't in too big a hurry. So I got here at 9 in the morning, pulled through the front gates, and a big hen turkey with about 10 or 12 little babies walked right across in front of the car. And keep in mind, this place was trashed and weeded, growed up, everything. It was really bad shape. But as soon as I saw those turkeys walk right in front of the car, as I'm pulling through the gate, literally, I said, "I'm buying this." My wife's getting, her eyes are like this, like, "You want to buy this junky place?" Well, what I didn't tell you was it was trashed like the city dump. And I am not exaggerating when I say that. And I'm not kidding you. The weeds were taller than your head. The weeds were 7, 8 foot, 10 foot high. The briars were 7, 8, 10 foot high. When I was cutting the weeds for the first time, I'm sitting on the tractor, leaning over the opposite wheel. The weeds were on this side, and the briars are coming over my head. That's how bad it was. I mean, it was bad. And then what wasn't covered in weeds was covered in trash. It was the worst looking place you ever saw in your life, and I'm not kidding. It looked just like the city dump. So, back up to the story of being there my first day. So I'm waiting in line to talk to the realtor. Well, I mean, it's now 2 in the afternoon, and I'm sitting in the car the whole time, and I'm just trying to wait my turn, And so when it is my turn, I run up to the realtor. I mean, I'm like right in his face, and I'm saying, "Did you get any offers on it yet? Did anybody say?" He goes, "Well, no." I said, "Did they give you any money down?" "No." But he says, "The people from Oklahoma City said they're going to buy it. They're going to put their buffalo and their Appaloosas out here in the front pasture." I said, "No, back up the truck. Did they give you a contract? Did they give you money down? Anything like that?" No, they didn't do that." I said, "Well, then they're not buying it. I'm buying it right now." I said, "I want it right this minute." And he's going, he starts stuttering. I'm in his face so much, he's literally stuttering. And he's going, well, don't you want to see the house first? I go, "No, I don't even care what the house looks like. If I have to doze it down and rebuild it, I'll do that." Well, he's just literally stuttering because I'm just eating him up. And I know you guys can't imagine me doing that, but anyway, I said, the only thing I want you to do is I want you to get on the phone because I know your phone works. I've been seeing, I actually said this to him. I said, I know your phone works because I've seen you on your phone all day. And I want you to call the guy that owns this and you make him a cash offer today for $210,000. He looks at me like I got three heads. He goes, 210? He's asking 250 and today's the first day we're showing it. He's not going to take 210. I said, mister, I ain't stupid. I know he's not going to take 210. But I want to hear you make that offer right now. And we're standing literally right outside the shop here, right on the driveway when I said this. And he gets on the phone. He goes, Bob, I got a guy here that says he'll give you 210 cash today. Would you take that? And I can hear Bob answering. Bob says, no, but I'd take 235. And I said, sold. I'll take it for 235. So that's what I got it for. I got it for. So that worked out to, I think, don't remember the exact numbers, but roughly $830 some per acre, I think is what it worked out to. That's a no-brainer in my mind. Now, having said that, my wife, I think, starts crying because it was just so trashed. I mean, seriously, you can't imagine how trashed. For 3 years, every single weekend, and I don't think I missed a weekend for 3 years, I came down every weekend with a bobcat, pushed trash into piles, and burned trash. And we hauled stuff off to the recycler and, different things like that. And anyway, I had flames, not the smoke. I had flames 70, 75 feet in the air. I mean, and it took me 3 years to clean it up. It was a disaster. And every single year for the first 3 years for sure, every single year we killed more than a dozen copperheads right around the buildings here. I mean, every single year. I mean, there were so many copperheads here, snakes. Oh my gosh, you can't even imagine how many there were. There just were everywhere, just everywhere. You turn over something, you'd have a copperhead snake. I mean, it was just nuts. But anyway, that's the whole story on it, and that's exactly how it happened. And I didn't embellish that. It probably sounds embellished, but I tell you the truth, that's exactly how it happened. And I knew the only reason the other people didn't jump on it, and I mean, the first person would have jumped on it had it not been so trashed. Because nobody wanted to deal with that. I mean, this place was a wreck. But I thought to save the money, and I'm not, me, I'm not opposed to doing the work. So I could see right through that. And it was a no-brainer to me. All right, let me go on to the last question here, and we have one more. Do your ideas about humidifying guitars apply to places like Colorado, which has very low humidity? Thank you for all your wonderful videos. And that was from Gus. Well, Gus, let me try to say this as nice as I can say it. I am not an extremist on anything. I'm not an extremist on anything. In other words, do I say never, ever, ever humidify? No, I don't say that. I say 99% of the people out there watching this do not need to humidify your instrument. Here's certain circumstances where you might. If you're generally in a humid area, like Missouri, and you go to a very, very dry area like my buddy Leon did, like Arizona, maybe you do. And if you're going to be there for an extended period of time, maybe you do need to humidify it a little bit. Because it's going to change so much. From summer to winter, it changes quite a bit anyway. From summer to winter, winter to summer, it's going to change anyway. But the point is, if you have a good air-conditioned house, air-conditioned and heated, generally speaking, if you just keep it in that environment and you don't take it outside that environment, you don't need to humidify. You're fine. You're going to just be fine. Is it going to change from summer to winter? Yeah, it's going to change regardless. It's going to change no matter what, but it's not enough to really care about. If you keep your house normal, if you have major extremes in your house, then maybe you need to think about it. But I'm just trying to talk to the general public here that's, everybody thinks they have to humidify. And I'm saying that humidification under the norm is not good. It's not good because your wood is dried down to 6% moisture content, which sounds like it's still pretty wet, 6% wet, but it's 94% dry. Think about that. And it doesn't get a lot drier. Yes, it can get a little drier. Yes, I know that. I'm no dummy. But it doesn't, percentage-wise, you're not getting a lot drier. Can you get a lot wetter? Oh, heck yeah. You can get a lot wetter. And when that wood is like a sponge. It gets around moisture and it just expands and it breaks your finish. It's going to break your finish. So I just want you to understand, Gus, I'm not an extremist. I'm just trying to explain the reality of the situation. If your guitar has always been in the Colorado humidity, which is very dry, then I would say you probably still don't need to do anything. If it was built there, if it was sold there, if it stayed there its whole life, you're probably just fine the way it is. I don't know. It's mostly when you move them from one environment to another, or your environment itself changes from one extreme to the other, then you probably do need to do something. There you go. That's the best I can explain it. I hope that makes sense to you. But I will say this. You just don't need to buy a humidifier the day you buy your guitar, even though the little sales guy is going to tell you do. It's just another sale for them, and that's really all it amounts to. Sorry, but that's the truth of it. Let me go. We're way late, I know already. Let me see if I can hit a few of these questions in here, and it looks like we got quite a few. Geez, sorry it took so long, guys. Gotta Fly Lee. Morning, Jerry from coastal North Carolina. Would you like some fly tying material? I have a bunch. Well, thank you very much, Gotta Fly Lee. I was wondering if that had anything to do with fly tying. But the truth is, I don't. I really don't need any. I got more than I'll ever use. And the truth is, I just don't do it that much anymore. But I thank you very much for the idea and the thoughtfulness. Ava Smith, I have a historical question. How would someone have sold a farm like yours in that era? Kind of a crazy question. The truth is, Ava, I don't know, and that's crossed my mind. I wondered about how all that worked. Now, I have what they call an abstract. It's a real thick book of pretty much everybody that's had anything to do with this property since the 1850s. And I don't know, the courthouse in Rolla is where almost all of it took place. So I guess they had to go to the courthouse, is about all I can tell you. And I really don't know much more about it than that. Ava has another question. It says, hey, no, it's the same one. It's just repeated down here a second time. The next one is Milex G. Hi, Jerry, or hey, Jerry, I want to build the thickness sander from your plans. What is the approximate cost doing it from the plans? Well, the truth is I don't know. I built mine so long ago, and a lot of the stuff I built mine with, I already had had as spare parts, like the bearings and different things. I just had them laying around, a lot of the stuff. So the truth is I don't know. My guess is you're going to spend a few $100, $300 or $400 is what I'm guessing you could build it for. And that might sound like a lot, but quite honestly, if I was going into business to sell that particular sander, I wouldn't sell it for probably less than $600-800 at least. And you might say, well, it's not worth that. You can buy a commercial, but those don't work to the 1,000th of an inch, and this one does. So there you go. So anyway, that's my take on it and my best guess. Kevin Rice, what would be the best joint to use on an oak 90-degree angle 3/4 by 7-inch using for bumper on an old Ford van? Well, for me, I would say a half lap. That'd probably be my strongest joint because A full half lap. That's where you take half of this one out and half of this one out, and you put them together. So now it's the same thickness all the way through, and you've got the most surface and gluing area there. And if you wanted to, you could also pin that with dowels in a couple places. But that's probably what I would do. I would probably do a half lap joint. But that's my first thought. Could you do a dovetail? Yeah, but dovetails can break off. Dovetails are not as strong as a lot of people think they are. I mean, I didn't mean dovetail. I meant mortise and tenon. That's what I meant. Mortise and tenon you could do, but they're not as strong as most people think they are. They're a good, strong joint, but they're not as strong as that half lap. I guarantee you it's not as strong as that. So anyway, that's probably how I do it. Bill Dedrick, Jerry, have you ever heard Jake Workman play mandolin? I know I have, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know anything about him, but I definitely have heard of him, and I'm sure I've probably heard him play. He was playing a Gilchrist. What do you think of the Gilchrist mandolin? Well, I've actually met Chris Gilchrist. I met him a couple times, and his workmanship and his mandolins are incredible. I mean, they're incredible. They're very, 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 very good. I got nothing negative to say about it. Do I think mine are just as good? Maybe. I think they're probably at least in the same caliber. I'm not saying they're better. I'm just saying, in fact, I'd probably never say mine are better than anybody else's, but I'd say they're just as good. So I think Gilchrist are great mandolins. I'm not crazy about his X-braced mandolins. I'm not real crazy about those, but I like his standard mandolins for sure. Russell Hardy, Jerry, when are you going to host another bluegrass festival? Probably never, because my family's just not into it. And you got to have your family behind you to do that, or a bunch of other, a committee or somebody's got to be behind you to help you. Steve Mercure, after the Battle of Wilson Creek, Union soldiers fell back to Rolla to regroup and resupply. They built Fort Wyman along what is now Highway 63. Could it be related to your finds? I don't know, Steve. I kind of doubt that. I'm a little ways from there. The reason I would say mine, that this is just talking out loud because I do not know this. But first of all, I know there was a battle of Little Piney. And now Little Piney borders my son's property right here in front of me. There was a battle of Little Piney. So there you go. You got that. And I know there was. I remember seeing it somewhere. That was a long time ago when I read it. The other thing that ties it to maybe the Civil War, and some people contradict me on this, but I read it somewhere, that Arlington, which is literally a mile that way, right as the crow flies, across the highway, Arlington was the very end of the railroad track during the Civil War. So that's literally a mile from here. And this valley is full of water, which everybody needed, and you didn't have your plastic drinking water back then. You had to have good, clean water, and this valley is full of it. So there's all of that to bring the Civil War here. That to me, So that's just my best guess. But I've heard of the Wilson's Creek thing too. So, but I kind of doubt it has anything to do with that, but it might. I mean, it's possible, I guess. Moving on. Clyde just said, thanks for your help there. He appreciated it. Well, you're welcome, Clyde. Moving down here, I think we just have a few more. Please don't add any more because we're running out of time here. We got 160 viewers still. David Ratty says, have you considered carbide blades? Yeah, I have thought about it. And I do watch all of Matt's videos, Matt Cremona. Yeah, he swears by them. He cuts through nails and everything. Yeah, and I'm not ruling it out. I might try that, actually. Michael Berkmeyer, will runs buff out? No, they don't buff out. You got to sand them out and then buff them, and they'll be fine. But you got to sand them out, not buff them out. At least that's been my experience. Maybe somebody else would disagree, but I've never been able to buff a run out. In fact, all you'll just see is it shiny or run. Carl Howard, will you be playing at the picking part when you go to the Mountain View? Yes, we will. We move all over the place there at Mountain View, so I never know where we're going to be. I used to know before these guys started bringing their campers down there, but now we're probably going to be mostly at their campground, which is only a couple blocks from the picking park, so it's not hard to get there. But if you decide to go, be sure to email me, and I will get back to you with my cell phone number. Just for the record again, and let me double check here because I'm not good on remembering dates. Where is the calendar? I've never had to do this before. There it is. Oh, where's the calendar? It wouldn't show up. We'll be there the 8th through the 11th. So Thursday the 8th. And anyway, we'd love to have y'all come by if you can. Let's see here. Moving on to the next one here. And now I've lost my place. Doggone it. Sorry. I just noticed this one here. It says, I pulled up a map of Rolla and saw Jerry Rosa String Works pinned. Very cool. All right, I'm getting back to where we were. I see my buddy Bruce there. Agree with you on the blue chip. Mine is 6 years old and it's not wore at all. Yeah, it's an amazing pick. Gordon Bartlett, Taylor guitars have a bolt-on neck. That GS Mini is an easy fix. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. See, I don't know all the models and all the different things like that. I'll never know all that. First of all, I see so many different ones that you can't keep in your head. So, yeah, if you got a bolt-on neck, yeah, stretch it out there a little bit. That would be a good way to do it. You can put a shim in there or something and stretch it out. So good point there, Gordon. Glad you brought that up. And, well, actually, the next line is, see, I don't read ahead. You may think I saw your note about shims, but I didn't. But Gordon, on his next comment, had shims. And yes, I would say, yeah, do the easy thing. Put a shim in there if you can. So that was a real good catch, though, Gordon. I'm glad you pointed that out. Zappa says, Mark Twain Samuel Clemens was born in Florida, Missouri, which is a peninsula in the middle of Mark Twain Lake, about 25 miles due north. Yeah, I don't know where he was born for sure. I know he spent a lot of time up there in Mark Twain land. What's that town called? I can't think of the town now. Hannibal, Missouri. I know he spent a lot of time up there too, so that's all I know about it for sure. Okay, that's it. Thumbs up, people, according to Scott Roberts. Thank you very much, guys. 181 viewers now. Doggone it, the last 20 just got here too late. But thank you all for being so kind to me as always, and hopefully I'll get a video out this weekend that'll be on something other than instruments. It'll either be something on the Sawmill or I have some other videos. I'm not really sure what it's going to be about, quite honestly. I got to see what I've got in terms of what's in the can. But thank you very kindly, everybody. We will see you for sure by Monday.